Hello, we are Sunday 31st of May. It is 1:40 p.m. here in Luxembourg. I'm in front of my home. This is where I reside. You see the weather is absolutely beautiful. I'm about to start a walk with my dear Goliath. You see Goliath with his new device to protect his right knee, which is injured, but he's improving nicely. We're going to the physiotherapist twice a week, and he does hydrotherapy. So he walks in a special machine in the water, on a treadmill in the water. And this is going to be his first long walk with the protective device. So we'll see. We might have some incidents. And because a few minutes ago I realized that I was in a very nice intermittent fasting episode today, because I had my dinner, my last meal, early dinner yesterday, finished at around 6 p.m. and it's now 1:45 p.m. So, I'm about to be in 20 hours of fast, full fast. I had 3 black coffees today. Now it's over, not after 2 p.m. And I had water, probably a decaf yesterday evening. So no food, nothing with any sort of calories, no sweeteners. Sweeteners are never a good idea. No sweeteners since yesterday 6 p.m. So almost 20 hours. We're going to walk. I don't know for how long. Obviously, the dog decides to a large part. And I'm going to deliver some information about intermittent fasting. In fact, this is the English version of a webinar that I have recorded almost 2 weeks ago, and which appears on my YouTube chain. Video chain, and that webinar, I think, has gathered a lot of information and attracted a lot of attention, I must say. So I would like to reproduce that information for my English viewers and English patients, because I have already noticed in the last 2 weeks that you see, the dog decides where we are going. We're going up, which is not the best for recording because I might get out of breath. Don't be surprised, because there's a steep hill. So this video has been viewed by patients, because when I recommend some intermittent fasting strategy to a patient, and if they are not aware, I explain, but of course we cannot spend the whole of the appointment in explaining all the details of intermittent fasting, so I refer to the videos. And in fact, in French, I have 3 complementary videos about intermittent fasting. I'm going to try to wrap up all that within this single English video about intermittent fasting. So let's perhaps start by saying that there's a lot of science now around intermittent fasting, very good evidence, and I have found very groundbreaking, really impressed with this article published in January 2019 in the British Medical Journal, which was recommending to the doctors that their patients who were not having breakfast, that was seen as a big sin until recently. Well, doctors are now told not to ask those patients who skip breakfast to implement a breakfast. Why? Because they put on weight, they eat more calories, and the trend is that we already eat too much. So the outcome of adding a breakfast for patients who don't have breakfast is negative. So when I heard that, I thought, wait a minute, I was limiting the intermittent fasting recommendation to my patients who had a variant genotype in a gene called OGG1. And that gene can go through a polymorphism affecting one area in the gene. And that polymorphism, when variant, so for any polymorphism you have the wild version, which is seen as the, between inverted commas, the normal version, and the variant version, which in this case is detrimental. It's not always detrimental, but in this case it is, because when OGG1 is variant, already from one copy, so not necessarily both copies have to be variant. One variant is enough to create problems already, and that variant polymorphism leads to a poor repair of DNA. Among those patients, the DNA repair is reduced either sevenfold if it's heterozygous. So heterozygous means only one copy is faulty. And if it's homozygous variant, so both copies, in such case, both copies are not doing the job, the DNA repair is reduced up to 20-fold. See, so that's a big deal, very big deal. And clearly, you don't want, well, the dog doesn't want to go this way, so there we go. There's another dog there, which I don't like. It's going to be disturbing a bit, but that's the nice aspect of this improvisation. Let's see what happens. So this OGG1 variant is detrimental, and something can be done about it, because in fact what can be done is boost the expression of the gene thanks to a sister gene called sirtuin-3, SIRT3, SIRT3. And there are different means to boost those sirtuins, which are very important genes. You might have heard about that elsewhere. They are implied in longevity, etc., etc. And the best means to boost SIRT3 is fasting. Now, let me go into a little bit more explanation about what I see as the best way to fast. And here we are not speaking about long-term fasts, okay? We nowhere would I mix what I'm explaining today with several days of fasting. Some people can fast for many hours. What would be included in intermittent fasting is up to 24-hour fast, but not spreading on several days. Okay. Now, intermittent fasting can be done in different ways. What you have heard about initially a few years ago, especially in London, that was very popular at some point, is the 5-2 fast. So that's 5 days of eating normally without restrictions and 2 days of fast, let's say hypocaloric fast, relative fast, not full fast, but something like 500 or 600 calories, perhaps up to 800, but I think it's rather 600 that was recommended. So on those days, a very restricted amount of food could be taken in the form of soups or juices or broths or things like that, liquids or not. And then back to a normal fast on a normal diet on the other days. So 2 days of fasting, 5 days of normal diet. And that helped losing some weight. Let me tell you, I don't really like it because I feel that is constantly disrupting the habits. You know, the body is a bit lost. It's disturbing. You go from eating very little to eat what you want on the next day, which will typically mean you're going to eat too much on that day. You know, I can't see a real logic in there. I much prefer this intermittent fasting that I'm promoting today and which I am doing at the moment. So now that we are speaking already for more than 10 minutes, I am hitting 20 hours of fast, full fast. And so we could call what I'm doing today a 20/4 intermittent fast. Okay, 20 the fast, 4 is the window of 4 hours that is left for consuming all the food. So you will hear a lot about the 18/6 optimal goal for intermittent fasting. So that clearly means 18 hours of fasting and 6 hours of eating. Well, that's already something pretty tough, pretty hard. Generally speaking, I'm very, very happy when my patients stick to the 16/8. 16/8 is in fact the standard, okay? 16 hours of fast, 8 hours of eating. The 16/8, so the standard intermittent fasting, in fact is slightly misleading because you would think that you fast for longer than you eat. Well, yes, that's true. But what we need to take into account is that when you finish eating, at the end of that 8-hour window, you have to provision 4 hours for digestion. Okay, so in fact, the 16/8 implies 12 hours of eating, digesting, and 12 hours of fasting. The 12 hours of fasting allow your system to cleanse. And the cleansing is something very, very important called the migrating motor complex, MMC. It's a specific wave that goes, it's a muscular wave that goes through the digestive tract and that allows the full refurbishment, you know, and it means getting rid of food debris, undigested foods, overgrowths of yeast or bacteria, unwanted microbes, if you want, the shedding enterocytes, you know, all the cells that cover the intestinal mucosa are shedding at a very fast pace because it's the whole thing is renewed every 5 days, you know, and we have hundreds and hundreds of square meters of that intestinal wall, up to 500 for somebody of normal build. So all those items are cleansed by the MMC, and ideally we have 12 hours to perform that refurbishment, automatic refurbishment, and then starts the 12 hours during which you can eat and finish to digest, which is going to take 4 extra hours. 8 plus 4, 12 as well. That works amazingly, which is why I was recommending that, of course, to my OGG1 variant patients. But now that the BMG itself is admitting that the breakfast is not this compulsory royal meal that you are supposed to have. You know, you start the day with you eat like a king, and then the lunch is a bit what you would get for a prince, and then your dinner is the one you would serve to a pauper. Well, that was the old saying, but you know, that was based on principles, wishful thinking, some logic. Was that based on science? No, there's no science behind those rules. It just sounds a good idea, but obviously it was not such a good idea. Well, I'm not against 3 meals, of course, but we have to think about the window. The window has to be restricted to allow this long, indispensable refurbishment, which we call MMC. MMC, people are usually aware about that, but they don't understand it properly. MMC is noisy. So when you haven't eaten for a long time and your stomach starts to gargle, well, that is the manifestation of MMC. Now, caring mothers, typically in the past, were saying, that means you're hungry. And of course, because that reflected the situation in which you didn't have food for a long number of hours. And so they thought the demonstration was achieved because they would recommend to have some food which stopped the gurgling. Well, yes, because if you eat, you immediately stop the MMC. But that doesn't mean you have addressed hunger, because there was no hunger. There was a cleanse that you have destroyed. So in fact, that was a very bad idea, delivered, of course, with, a desire to care and to help. But that was wrong. You know, with all the tough situations, wars, starvations, etc., that humanity has gone through, it's really in the modern times that we have this excess of food everywhere. Well, not everywhere, for sure, but certainly in our industrialized societies. If you think about all the food that is wasted, I'm not saying it is shared properly, but there is a global excess of food. We are living a very different situation, but obviously the basic situation humanity has gone through has rather been lack of food. And if you think about ancient times, Paleolithic era, and of course that means millions of years, our ancestor Lucy, found in the Rift Valley in Ethiopia, and I've seen her skeleton in Addis Ababa in the Ethnologic Museum, which was quite an amazing visit. Her skeleton dates back to 3.2 million of years. So that's obviously a very long time during which humans have struggled with a lack of food. So there's always this instinctive scare that parents will have, being afraid that their child is hungry, and that's why the stomach is noisy. So let's not do that any further. And if you hear those loud noises coming from your stomach while you are implementing this intermittent fasting strategy, well, celebrate and don't kill the nice move by eating to stop the noise. It will stop the noise, but that's not a good idea. So this MMC is really a fundamental process which I think explains that our modern intestinal health has deteriorated so much, because as nowadays there is a belief that you have to eat when you wake up so that you find the source of energy that enables you to go out and work. And often that's not heavy-duty manual work, as we had to do in different times where we didn't have any machines. It was great if you could get the help of a horse or of some animal to help you in the fields. A horse to ride and go somewhere, but the modern life is very far from that, and still we have this very deeply rooted belief that we need to eat so that we have the strength to go out, drive our car, and take a lift, and then use a phone or a computer, or go into meetings. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So this modern habit to eat often, and with this completely fake belief that you need to eat often, perhaps small amounts, to multiply the meals and the snacks, to keep your blood glucose stable. I mean, what's that nonsense? This is where is that coming from? This is ridiculous. There's zero science justifying that. So those 3 meals and 2 snacks, or 3 meals, 3 snacks, just to keep your glucose stable, but well, it's a very good recipe for pre-diabetes or insulin resistance, or perhaps diabetes, yes. But it's certainly not a great idea, and it's certainly not sustained by scientific evidence. So with all these meals and a very limited time for MMC, because if you think about a typical timetable for contemporary office clerk, for instance, as an example, perhaps because there's commuting, of course, cause, you have to take your breakfast at 7 a.m. and you go to the office, then you have your day of work, and you have to commute back home, and that is going to take you up down to 8 p.m. for some of them. Okay, this is nothing extraordinary, and so you might finish eating at 9 p.m. So what exactly is that? It's what we would call a 10-14, 10 hours of fast and 14 hours of eating, okay? Which is completely wrong, because when can the gut repair itself, Each cycle of MMC lasts 90 minutes. Ideally, we need 8 such cycles to fulfill the job optimally. Okay, 8 times 90 minutes, which are the 12 hours. But for someone who is in that 10-14 situation, don't forget that the 14 hours of eating have to be expanded into 4 extra hours for digestion. So in fact, you only have 6 hours left for refurbishment, and you can only perform 4 MMC cycles, which is half of the optimum. I like the analogy with the room cleaners coming into offices, or into the clinic to remove all the rubbish and to clean. You would say that the first 90 minutes is probably the priority is to empty the bins, different types of bins, clinical waste, domestic waste, etc. Sharp bins with the needles. Then the second round of 90 minutes, you're perhaps going to clean the sink and start putting things a little bit back in order. And then you need a third one to remove the dust on the surfaces, but then you would be glad to have a fourth one to disinfect all the areas where patients might have been in contact with. And then you go a little bit further in depth, because then you need to make the floor a bit more shiny or remove stains on certain parts of the office, on the floor, or on the bed on which patients lie down, etc. And then you're going to go really into deeper and deeper cleansing, and then after 12 hours your consultation room is absolutely pristine. That's what we want for